So I'm going now around a penetration, and this is all wasted paper. The customer does not want this paper nor the side of it. If he did, there's a special way to go about doing that. All right, so I'm working my seam. This is actually a benefit. Whenever you have a linear bubble that makes a line, it means that your wall is not plumb. Just a regular bubble, like a poof underneath there, that's nothing. But when you have linear bubbles, it's actually like about 4 or 5 inches. It means your paper has to get worked before you set it down. So you have these lines, you feel them out? You don't try to push them out. You're going to crush the paper and it's going to become all wrinkled and discolored. So you want to lift your paper and start moving it over. It has to be square. Square with this sheet. We're working off this sheet. We're not working off the ceiling, because if we go by the ceiling, we may be overlapped by 1 inch by the time we get down below. So you're going on the edge, right on the edge. And everything else is going to be worked over. See, I'm getting linear. The linear bubble is this. You see this? This is a bubble here. No, I don't want that. I'm going to work that out because it will become a wrinkle in my paper. We can't have that. So just work it, work it, work it. Lift it up if you have to. You see how I'm doing it? I'm not just doing the left. I'm going left to right. I work my seam on the left, go to my right. I pull the paper down a little more, work my seam, because this is the guide. It must be connected to this paper. Then I go to the right. Everything is good. I got no I don't even have little bubbles. This paper is very good to hang. You want the paper that comes with the glue, where you put the glue on the wall first. It's a much easier paper to hang. But you're not going to find this paper in a commercial establishment because it's not for heavy traffic. I got a linear bubble. I was able to work it out without lifting up the paper. Again, this wall is off. We're at a corner. The corner is raised because the plaster guy probably put, there's probably 1/4 more inch of wall here at this corner than there is right here. I can feel it going up here. But a good wallpaper hanger is going to work with that nuance. Okay, so now, here's our first cut, our first penetration on the wallpaper. So just bring that camera over here. I don't want to cut anything yet, except for my length. Again, I'm not cutting against the man's woodwork. I'm just cutting against the air. I'm keeping the wallpaper tight, and that makes the cut nice and sharp and crisp. This is clean paper. You don't want to leave that on the floor. Now, here's a common mistake wallpaper do-it-yourselfers make. I just need the border adhesive. Now, because these penetrations take time, the wallpaper starts to dry. But no problem. Just take your glue and recoat the wall. No big deal. Especially around these things. You want that sticky. You want that paper to stick to this stuff. Okay, now we're good. Now, watch what I do. I'm going to have to break the blade again. I want a nice sharp blade. Okay, so, I'm going to change this blade out. This is a tile floor, it's ceramic. I'm going to cover it with my hand and break that off. Ow! Okay. Now. Okay, so now, here's a common mistake. What do you cut first? You'll never forget this rule. You start on your left, you go to your right. That's your first cut. See that? You're not cutting here, because the people that cut here are going to find out that it doesn't match here. You need to go from left to right. The first penetration required by your particular wallpaper installation is going to be dictated by the rule of left to right. Not right to left. If you start right to left, fine. That's where you start again. You start cutting where the first penetration meets when you go from right to left. If you don't understand what I mean, I'll explain it. So we have this beautiful paper here, and we have this penetration that's going to cause us to cut or penetrate the paper. So now I'm working my paper left to right. Of all the area on my paper, this is my first obstacle. I must first cut around this, and here's how I'm going to do it. and this is a pretty simple one. Without cutting, this can cut the paper too, depending on how wet it is. I go right up against that corner. See that? And here's all I'm going to do. I'm cutting a very sharp line in my paper right up against that sill. Okay, so now that's cut. But now we have to cut this whole line. How do we do it? Well, we need this paper, right? Because the paper needs to come up to here, but this is garbage. Where's our next cut? You might think down here. Actually, it's not. We want to relieve the stress for the paper to fully cover this wall. Your first cut is going to be up here. Watch this. You can already figure it out. You see that? That's why you cut up there first. All right? Pretty simple. But these are the things that when you're hanging wallpaper for the first or second time, or you've hung wallpaper years ago and you forget how to do it, those are the things that are going to throw you off. All right? I want a little glue in there. I like my wallpaper to stick. I like using more glue than necessary. Call it overboard. I don't want callbacks. I want to get a professional name. When my clients see that the paper is up a year later and that nothing's coming up, okay? I'm making my crease line, so I'm making the friction. It's getting hot and it's causing a crease in the paper. That's fine. I'm making a crease here. Just working the paper now for any final bubbles. I can see there are no bubbles in this paper. Okay, now watch this. This is always something I wanted to show my YouTube customers. Now, I'm being lazy right now. Really, this is how I should be. To make sure that my blade doesn't cut up against my smoother. Once you got a nick in the smoother, you either have to throw it away or you have to cut it against a 90-degree angle. Because it will cut into your paper. And you know, that's why I have a bunch of them. So this is what I got to do. Sharp blade right up against the marble. And you want to cut right up against it, okay? The final pass, do with a nice clean rag. You can feel it. It allows for your hand to feel any bubbles. You got to see how much this wall is coming out right here. I don't know if you can see that, but if you can see the pattern, you can see that this is kind of like on a hump. That's how much this wall is off. It's a good 1/4 of an inch from here to here. I'll show you by this. See the gap in here? Watch this. So you got to work with all these nuances, okay? Now, smooth that paper into there, okay? Now, I want to show you how to cut this, and you're going to use the long neck of the blade to do it. Now look how I'm cutting this on the bottom. There's 2 ways to do this. Once is over the plastic or once is below it. It matters. If you're really good at cutting the paper, it doesn't matter as much. But if you're new at it, don't do it like I just did it. Cut it under it. There's no chance of you going to cut too much of the paper if you do it like that, okay? So, wipe down. You always want to keep a clean rag too. This is the last thing, then I'll let you go in YouTube land. Now, I don't intend to edit this video. I'm assuming this is going to work. This is the shaft of the blade. You want to use this part of the blade to cut this. Now, I used to do this when I first started doing wallpaper. I let this dry first because it gets really tight. But now, you know, many years later, you learn that you could do it right away. But the paper has to be nice and tight. So you hold it. I'm pushing it in here.